My name is Jacqueline, and I'm here today to do some basic skate maintenance with you. We have the largest skate jam in the entire world coming up this weekend at Joy Skate-a-thon. And I want to make sure that everybody has a good time, so I'm doing my part to remind everyone to do some basic maintenance on their skates so parts won't fall apart, wheels don't fall off, and that you have a good time. Okay, I'm going to start on my American Rydels first. And so I'm going to bring out my little American kit right here, which is very simple. Skate tool that you can see, a few dollars. I have my 8mm bearings, and I have my lubrication. The first thing I'm going to do is take off the wheels and clean them. Very simple. And to loosen the nut, you always move to the left. To tighten, move to the right. After all these years, it finally took somebody to tell me left, loosey-goosey, and that made me remember that to loosen, you always turn to the left. Left, loosey-goosey. So I take off the wheel. I'm going to check the bearing. You see how I have it between my two fingers, and it's rolling smoothly and quietly. All right. Now all I did is take a old rag, an old towel. I made it damp, not wet, and I put a little dishwashing liquid on it, and that's all I use to clean. It does not have to be soaking wet. You don't want it soaking wet because if your wheels already have the bearings in them, you don't want the bearings to get wet inside. So all I'm going to do is just rub the dirt off. There's no secret to it. Just get the dirt off. And again, this cloth is only just damp. Now, I've already changed my bearings out a few weeks ago because I was experimenting with smaller wheels. So I don't really need to take off all the wheels because I've already done my skate maintenance for this pair of skates. So you can, if you would like, go ahead and just clean off the wheels without taking the wheels off. But again, you do want to make sure that there's no noise when your wheels are spinning, because that's a sure sign that your bearings are about to fail on you. So if I do that, you don't hear any noise. Alright, so I'm going to continue cleaning, and I'll be back with you back. I've done all my wheels. They're nice and clean now. You might ask, well, why do you need to clean your wheels? You need to clean your wheels so that the dirt doesn't build up and then you lose your grip. I preferably like skating on wood floors. And if you let the dirt build up, it'll literally can turn your wheels into like glass, and you'd have no traction. So that's why you want to clean, and then plus you want to look good when you're out there on the floor. You don't want dirty wheels. Though if you skate hard, you can't help it. but you want to keep your wheels clean so that you can maintain your grip on the floor. Now, all my wheels and bearings were just fine. They were quiet. But if I had to run into a bearing that needed to be replaced, I would have brought out my bearing puller and bearing press. And it's not that expensive. I can't exactly remember how much I paid for it, but it was definitely under $50, and it's worth having it. So this is how you use it. This is the bearing press. You just lift up the pin. You would put the bearing in, one on each side. Put the rubber side on the outside. Put it on the spoke and press. If you needed to take the bearings out, you would put it on this end of the bearing press and squeeze back and pull it out. It takes some effort, but you would just pull it out. You just make sure that the bearing is hooked on to this bolt right here and pull at it. Okay, I'm not going to bother taking mine out, but that's how you use a bearing press. Believe it or not, my bearing press came with absolutely no instructions. If it wasn't for the fact that I had seen other people do it before, I wouldn't have had a clue of how to use this. But that is how you use your bearing press. All right. Now also, if you know that you haven't cleaned your wheels in a long time, go ahead and take them off, even if the bearings do sound good, because it's unbelievable how much hair can get on the spokes or on your axles in between the wheel and your axle. I've found like little civilizations under mine sometimes, especially if I'm skating hard and skating like say 4 times a week and I'm at different rinks and things like that. So you know, take the time and go ahead and take your wheels off, especially if you know it's been like at least 6 months since the last time you cleaned it, and get all that nasty hair out. Alright, so I'm going to put the wheel back on, and I'm going to take the nut here, put it back on. And I'm going to move to the right to tighten. And you want to make sure that you don't tighten too far down in the neck of the bolt, because then you'll be digging into the rubber bearing casing. Once you put your wheels back on, check the roll. Make sure that they don't have to be perfectly even and stop exactly at the same time, but within reason. And again, that you don't hear any noise. One other thing that you want to check is that there's not a lot of give between the bolt and your axle. So just give it a little. If it seems too loose, just go ahead and loosen it up a bit So even if you did not take off all your wheels, that's a good point to check. Okay, now this is the wheel I just put on, so you can even hear that there's a space. So I'm just going to tighten it up just a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to check the spin. Perfection. All right, now what I'm just going to do now is do a little cleanup here. Clean up the top, dust it. This is just a plain paper towel. Oh, one thing that I want you to check is the front and rear axle. If it's too loose, go ahead and take the time to use your skate tool to loosen or tighten it. Now you have to be careful with this particular screw and nut, because when you unscrew it, you wind up loosening all of these components. Okay, and so you just want to be careful when you do it and not tighten it, loosen it or tighten it too much. You want to try to keep them in sync, unless you know that you like a very loose rear axle over a tight front axle. Okay, because I've been at skate jams where I've seen this whole axle rolling off onto the floor at a skate jam. So just be careful not to loosen it too much. And whenever I loosen or tighten my axle, I always then, usually immediately, if not that night, the next day, I go and test it out on the skate floor. I would never loosen or tighten my axles and go to a skate jam without testing it first, because you just don't know sometimes how you're going to react to a stiffer or looser axles. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, again, is just a little dusting off. I could change up my laces if I want to, but I'm fine with that. And just a little dusting, and that's all she wrote. I am going to do my European skates as well, but I use different tools for my European skates because they're on the metric system. And what you don't want to do is to try to use American tools on your European skates or your European plates, because you'll wind up stripping the nut or stripping the tread on the screws. Even though somebody might be trying to help you out and they come across a tool that's very near your metric or very near your American, in the long run it will strip it, and you'll always have problems. So be independent. Make sure that you have the right tool for your skates. All right, and happy skating. The last thing I wanted to mention was, when you travel internationally, make sure that you check with your airline to make sure that skates can be put into overhead compartments. I have checked the FAA's website, and skates are acceptable, and so you can bring them, but each airline has its own rules. For instance, British Airways is fine with bringing skates as carry-ons.